Is Buddha the original state or the result of spiritual development?
Well, it's not a matter of my opinion. What is stated in the teachings is that Buddhahood is what we're aiming for. So it is the goal of the Mahayana path is to develop ourselves to the stage of where we become a fully enlightened Buddha. And this is with the motivation of bodhicitta, which is our mind aimed at our enlightenment that hasn't happened yet, but which can happen on the basis of our Buddha nature factors. And we are aiming to attain that. And the intention and motivation that is driving us to that is compassion, to be able to benefit all beings. And that's what we intend to do when we actually attain enlightenment. And we try to do that as much as possible all along the way.
What is omniscience in the Buddha's experience?
Well, omniscience means to be aware of simultaneously of everything. And so in each moment, a Buddha is aware of all beings and the previous lives of all beings. In other words, all the karmic potentials that they have now based on all their previous activities in previous lives. And so based on that, a Buddha knows exactly what would be the best way to help them. So Buddha knows what would be the results of anything that a Buddha might be able to teach them. So in that way, a Buddha knows what would happen in the future, depending on what they teach them now and all the interactions that they would have in the future. So this omniscient state of a Buddha is an all-knowing state, knowing all of that, interacting with each other. In other words, all beings are interacting with each other. So everything that arises is arising on the basis of dependent arising. So arising on many, many different factors. And a Buddha is aware of all of those. So this is based, and it's with a full loving heart and equal concern for everyone.
What is the middle way in Buddha's teaching?
Well, the middle way, or Madhyamaka, is a middle that avoids going to either of two extremes. So one extreme is absolutism, in which you consider everything to be absolutely fixed, established from their own side as, in one particular way, all by itself, isolated from everything else. So that's an absolute type of way, which it would then be eternally like that. So sometimes that's called eternalism, but absolutism, I think, is a better way of saying that. And the other extreme is the extreme of nihilism, that nothing exists at all. So it's a middle way between neither. Middle way, by the way, doesn't mean that it's a little bit of both, half of one, half of the other. It doesn't mean that. It means that it is neither of these two extremes. Things don't exist by themselves, by their own power, by some sort of self-establishing nature within them, on the one hand, and it's not that they don't exist at all, on the other hand. So this can be understood on many, many different levels. So if we take this at on the Prasangika level, as explained by Tsongkhapa, then we're speaking in terms of mental labeling. And mental labeling is with concepts and with then designated with words. So we have a concept of something, which is a mental idea, which can be designated with a word. And then we have a basis on which it is tied. Usually the word is imputed, but imputed means that it's tied. It can't exist or can't be known separate from the basis. So if you take let's say, take a simple example, like none of the examples are terribly simple, but let's say a whole and parts. A whole is tied to parts. It can't exist separate from parts, and it can't be known separate from knowing at least some of the parts, if not all of the parts. So so what is a whole? What is a whole? Well, what's a whole glass? Like this glass of water that I'm holding. So I mean, there's all the parts. There's the glass. There's this side. There's that side, etc. And so, what is the glass? So I have a concept of what a glass is, because I'm seeing something. I'm seeing some visual form. I'm feeling some physical sensation of holding something. Glass of water, I can taste it, so it performs a function that I can actually, it will hold water and I can drink from it. So there are all these things. So I have a concept of a glass that is tied to all these parts, to all these things. And what does the concept refer to? Concept is just a concept. It's just an idea. And the word glass of water, that expression is just a word. That's just a sound that has been assigned a meaning by convention. So it refers to something. So, but what it refers to is not something that you can actually point to, in a sense. I mean, I can conventionally point to the glass. I'm not pointing to, the screen that you're seeing this on. But there's a difference between what a concept or word refers to. It refers to something that performs a function, this glass of water. But then what would a concept correspond to? And what would correspond to something is like something outside of this whole conceptual framework that exists by itself, that there's a glass of water, self-established by itself, not in terms of what we call a glass of water, that convention, just established by what's called a self-establishing nature from its own side. And that the concept that I have of a glass of water corresponds exactly to that. I mean, that's what it is. So there is no such thing as that. There's nothing that corresponds to that concept. Now, that's not so easy to understand. There's no whole thing that's just standing there by itself. Because when I say a whole, when I say the word whole, it refers to something on the basis of these parts, but there isn't a whole that exists separately by itself, corresponding to just that word. So the absolutist position is that there is such a thing as a whole, just sort of sitting out there. Or, if I say an emotion, well, an emotion, I'm feeling an emotion, refers to something, what I'm feeling, but it isn't that there's some emotion sitting out there, that every time I think of that emotion, there it is. That's what I'm talking about. That's the absolutist thing. The nihilist thing is saying that it doesn't refer to anything. And that's not the case either. It does refer to something that, that functions, but it's not some sort of solid type of thing. So this is very important that we understand that things don't exist like words in a dictionary. When we think of things, we think of things in terms of categories like good, bad, red, blue, this person, that person, like that. But this person or that person Every time we think of them, we have maybe some sort of mental image that represents them, but they don't exist, like that. If you think of, my mother, for example, I could have a mental image of my mother. So, but that doesn't correspond to, who she actually is. If it did, she would just exist as a still picture that never changed and always look exactly like that, in that position, wearing those clothes, having that expression on her face. So that concept and what represents it doesn't correspond to her, but it does refer to her. It's how I think of her. It's when I think my mother, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm thinking about. I think that's an easier example. So the absolutist thing would be that, my concept of mother, when I think of her or when I speak of my mother, corresponds, that there's something corresponding to that says, exactly like that, self-established by itself, by its own power. That's not the case. But it's also not the case that when I think of her or I speak about her, that's referring to nobody. It's not that it refers to nobody, it refers to somebody. That's the middle path.
Who is Mara?
Who is Mara? Mara is a representation of demonic forces. And demonic forces Mara comes from the Sanskrit word to kill. And MR, mur, maybe you have, I think maybe a root like that in Russian, maybe not. But in any case, it is we have that in English, the word to murder comes from that root. And the Amara is something that kills our chances or prevents, makes an obstacle, tries to kill our chances for attaining liberation and enlightenment. And so generally we speak of 4 types of Mara. First Mara is death. That death kills our chances because, we've made all sorts of progress in this lifetime, but then some other karmic potentials could take over and, we're reborn in some lower state. Or in any case, if we're reborn as a human, we have to start all over again as a baby and relearn everything and so on. So that really makes a big obstacle in our spiritual progress when we experience death. Then the next one are our disturbing emotions. And our disturbing emotions of anger and attachment, desire, greed, naivety, jealousy, arrogance, all of these things, they also make a big block to our attaining liberation or enlightenment. So that's the second Mara. And the third Mara is our aggregate factors. So our body and mind are of the basic nature of suffering, in the sense that a body gets old. It has all sorts of hormones as we grow up that causes all sorts of, brings on a lot of desire and so on. The body gets sick, the body grows old. Our minds as well are things that are, problematic. First, you have to train it. And then as you get old, your short-term memory fails, you forget things, your mental processes slow down, all these sort of things. So these are obstacles that prevent our liberation and enlightenment, the aggregates. And then the last one is referred to as the son of the gods, literally. And what that is referring to is distorted antagonistic views, so wrong views, that's usually called. And so when we are taught and believe these incorrect views, such as, that we are, some sort of permanent soul that never changes and so on, and that when we become liberated, we can exist independently of a body and mind, all these sort of things. These are obstacles to gaining a correct understanding that'll bring liberation and enlightenment. So these are the four maras: death, the disturbing emotions, the aggregates, and incorrect views. And they are sometimes represented as a figure, Mara.
Buddha's activity, what is it?
Buddha's activity is basically, I like to translate it as an enlightening influence. It is described in all the various texts as a Buddha doesn't have to actually do anything actively, that just by the very way in which a Buddha is, in a sense, that it exerts an enlightening influence on everyone around them. This is in a text called in Tibetan Gyulama or Uttara Tantra in Sanskrit, which means a stream of continuity that goes on forever, everlasting continuum. There it describes a Buddha being like the sun, and the activity of the sun is to shine, and it doesn't matter, it's not concerned about who it shines on. It just shines. So the Buddha activity is like an influence that just spreads out from a Buddha with no no active effort or conscious effort on the part of the Buddha. And anyone who comes into the sunshine will be warmed by it. If they don't come out of their cave and into the sunshine, then they're not going to be warmed by it. So likewise, a Buddha's enlightening activity or enlightening influence is only going to be effective for those who are receptive to it, who are open to it, who in a sense come out into the sunshine. And there's usually four types of enlightening influence that are described, or four types of Buddha activity. These are pacifying, to be able to pacify difficult situations, to calm them down. Increase, which is to stimulate things to grow. What's usually translated as power, which basically is to be able to get everything under control. So everything in order, functioning properly, sort of like a magnet, aligning everything so that they all function properly together. And then forceful activity, when force is necessary to be able to overcome dangerous situations. So these are the four types of, the main four types of Buddha activity, or the enlightening influence of a Buddha. There are many, many other divisions, but those are the main ones.
There is an expression, Buddha is no further than your own palm. Does this mean that we have to look for Buddha in ourselves?
Well, I'm not quite sure what the source of that quote is, but I know that the Lamrim text, Graded Stages text, that was written by Poponka Rinpoche, is translated in English as Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. Well, that was a catchy title given. I don't know if it was given by the translator or the editor of the book, but if you look at the actual Tibetan name of it, it is, the word is lakjang, and a lakjang is something that you can hold in your hand. And so it is graded stages that you can hold in your hand for attaining liberation or enlightenment. If you actually spell out, the full connotation of the Tibetan title. So it's namely, it doesn't mean that, Buddhahood is sitting inside you, just waiting to pop out. that is already there. But I mean, it does say in, again, this text, Ulama, Uttara Tantra, the the furthest everlasting stream, that Buddhahood is not given by somebody else. It's something that you have to actually attain yourself. So it's within your own power to be able to attain Buddhahood. So that means that you have to put in all the work yourself. Now, a Buddha and your spiritual teachers can inspire you. So you request their inspiration. Sometimes that is translated as asking for their blessings, but blessings is a word from Christianity. That's not a very helpful way of translating the Tibetan term. What it means is you're requesting their enlightening influence, basically, this Buddha activity, to literally uplift you or brighten you. That's the literal translation of the word that is translated sometimes as blessing. And so we have the Buddha nature factors within us. These are the factors that will allow us to attain enlightenment and which will transform into the bodies of a Buddha that change from moment to moment. So we have the basic nature of the mind, which is its void nature, or in some of the Tibetan traditions, also the conventional nature of the mind. So this is what will allow us to become a Buddha. The deepest nature is what then continues as what's called the essential nature, or the Svabhava Kaya, essential nature body of a Buddha. And we have two, it's usually translated as a collection of merit and wisdom, but I prefer network. It's not just a collection, like a collection of stamps. They are the factors that all network together, interconnect and work together. So we have a positive force or positive potential from our constructive behavior. It's usually called merit. So we have all this positive force, and we have the deep awareness, which is this wisdom thing, the deep awareness from our focusing on voidness, specifically non-conceptually focusing on it, although we have something similar to that before. And so the positive force, positive potential, is what will transform into the form bodies of a Buddha. We build up positive potential from actually working to help others with bodhicitta, and that will transform into a body that actually will help others, in the fullest type of way. And then we have this deep awareness of voidness, which will transform into the omniscient mind of a Buddha, which is aware of not only the voidness of everything, but also the mere conventionality of things, what they are. Buddha knows what things are, obviously, not just voidness, and who you are, not who you are in an absolute sense, but can differentiate this person from that person in order to be able to help this person specifically and that other person individually. So Buddha knows that. So this is what will transform that network of deep awareness into the omniscient mind of a Buddha. So these are the factors within us. We have these evolving factors, these two networks that can evolve to become the form bodies and omniscient mind of a Buddha. We have the abiding factor, which is the nature of the mind, void nature, or it could also include the conventional nature of the mind. And then the fact that these networks on our mental continuum can be stimulated to grow through the enlightening influence of the Buddhas, of the teachers, and so on. So this is what it means, but it's within our own power then to put in all the work to get all that positive potential, to build up that network of positive potential, to build up that network of deep awareness. But it's based on these factors that we have within us. But that doesn't mean that Buddhahood is sitting inside us and waiting to pop out.
Your spiritual advice for the Losar holiday.
Well, just a few days ago, we had the Lunar New Year, which it's usually just called the Lunar New Year, but or sometimes it's called the Chinese New Year, which is celebrated by the Chinese, the Koreans, the Japanese, and all the Southeast Asians in their countries. And this is based on the Chinese calendar, which, like the Tibetan calendar, is a lunar calendar, but the Chinese calendar and the lunar calendar the Chinese calendar and the Tibetan calendar don't always correspond. Because they are based on lunar cycles, 12 cycles of full moon, new moon and full moon, that they aren't the same. They're shorter than a solar year, when the sun returns to the same spot that it was each year at a certain point. And so every number of years, you have to add an extra month to the calendar in order to make it correlate to the solar year, at least approximately. And so the rules by which the Chinese calendar adds the months, the extra month, and the rule by which the Tibetan calendar adds the month are different. So sometimes Tibetan New Year and Chinese New Year correspond to each other the same time, same day of a new moon, and sometimes they don't correspond. And this is a year in which they don't correspond. So we had Chinese New Year, if you want to call it Chinese, but as I say, it's shared by all these other traditions in Asia. A few days ago, from when this recording is made, this interview is made, and so that was in the beginning of February, and the Tibetan Losar, the Tibetan New Year, will be, I believe it's the 3rd of March. I may be wrong on that by a day or so, but it's a month later. So in any case, advice for, just so that you don't get confused, that people don't get confused, that there are two Losars. But anyway, advice for either of them is, what can I say? We are in a difficult period with COVID. We are in a difficult period in the world situation and politics that are going on now in many, many places of the world. And as His Holiness the Dalai Lama always says, it's very important not to become pessimistic. If we become pessimistic and depressed, then all that does is put you in a bad mood and make you very unhappy. And it doesn't help anything. And so it's a much better strategy for dealing with difficult times to try to be optimistic and never to give up hope. Well, hope also has to be realistic, not hoping for, something that is impossible to attain, but hope that is realistic. And the way to give us hope, His Holiness says, is to think of little things that have gone better. And if things have improved for a little bit about whatever that little bit might be in your own personal life, or in your city, or in your country, or in your family, something like that. That is something which is uplifting. It inspires you, and it can give you hope that other things as well will improve and get better. So this is part of what is there for dealing with our difficult situation. The other aspect of it, there are two further aspects of it. One aspect, in addition, is to be aware of impermanence, that things change and nothing is forever. And so things will not always stay exactly the way that they are. And then in addition, things go up and down. So that's the nature of samsara, that it goes up and down. That's the difficulty of samsara. One of the difficulties of samsara is that there's no security. You never know when it's going to go up or it's going to go down. And that happens all the time. So things could get worse, but things can also get better. And they will continue to go up and down. And so we shouldn't have an unrealistic expectation that things will always get better. That's not going to happen either. So if we have a realistic attitude and then stay aware that we are not alone in this difficult time, we're not the only one experiencing the difficulties. Everybody is in the same situation. This pandemic is global. The political difficulties that, or economic difficulties that might be going on in the world affect everybody. They affect each individual in each country in a different way, but they affect everybody. I mean, this is the result of our globalization. Climate change, all of that is affecting everybody. And so we're all in this together and we're not alone. You know, this is what often makes difficult situations very frightening, is because we think that we're the only one experiencing them and there's nobody else. And so, you know, we feel everything is just on our own shoulders. But that's not the case. It's all of us. And this enables us to deal with the situation with compassion, thinking in terms of compassion for everybody. May everybody be able to deal with these difficult circumstances. May everybody be able to overcome their suffering and unhappiness. And when we do that in a giving and taking or donglen type of way, we are sending out to them happiness. We're sending out to them, you know, the ability to deal with a difficult situation and to be optimistic and not to get depressed and so on. And when we generate that in ourselves, to be able to emanate that to others in this donglen practice, in this giving and taking, then obviously we're experiencing it ourselves. We've generated it in ourselves. And so in that sense, we benefit from it as well. So this giving and taking practice is also very helpful in this difficult time. So this is my advice. You know, it would be nice if this next year, you know, the pandemic is over, but it might not be over. You know, there can be new variants which come along, new mutations. The political situation could get better, it could get worse. But this is the importance of what's called armor-like perseverance. The perseverance that, you know, is like a suit of armor. You know, I don't care how difficult it gets. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to continue working on the spiritual path and working specifically to be able to benefit everybody, because we are all in this situation together. So that's my advice.
Congratulations to Buddhists all over the world on the Losar holiday.